Hello, hello, my brothers and our beloved sisters. J.A. Rogers here, Mike's side. We're black men declare. Why don't you go ahead and smash that notification button, that share button, and let's get on with some expansive conversation this evening. Our objective is to change the narrative that we're fed in this place we call America and other nations around the world. So many subject matters that we can deal with. One subject matter that I know over the last 50 years has been discussed many, many times, and it's on the concept of brothers holding back and sisters and practicing monogamy before marriage. And so, Dr. Tell, I'd like to get your perspective on how do you see this thing? Should men, but specifically black men, practice monogamy before marriage?
Well, greetings to you, Dr. Rogers, and greetings to our sisters and to our brothers of Black Men Declare. I had never, to be totally honest, had never thought about this concept until I heard a discussion, and it made perfect sense. And even in my own life, it has been somewhat of a struggle. But the commentary basically said that men, specifically black men, some, not all, before they get married, they usually have 2 or 3 different women that they date, and that they always have a backup. And what the commentators mentioned is that in order to have a very successful marriage, you need to have you need to have all of your other choices and focus on your wife. And I thought about that in monogamy, and thought about the fact of should there be a period before you get married? Should there be a year or two, or even being in a committed relationship? Should there be a 2 or 3 year period before getting married? So listening to it and having gone out and done a little bit of research, I think it would be beneficial. I think that men, we are creatures of habit. And if you get out of the habit of having multiple women, get out of the habit of having a backup, then you could be more successful in your commitment and be accustomed to being with one person. Now, briefly, I will tell you, I do have some friends who say that monogamy is unnatural, that no other race or no other life form practice monogamy, that only men or only human beings, which happen to be the highest form of animal or being here on Earth, we are the only animals that practice it. So I have heard both sides of the argument, but I am more on the side that I need to practice and get accustomed and get used to being with one woman. As always, blessings to you all, and I can't wait to hear what others have to say.
Greetings, my brothers, my family, and my sisters. Black Men Declare. Ben Banneker here. And good question, Dr. Taylor. That was an excellent response. I am personally responsible, that I know of not having any seeds delivered in this dispensation. However, relationships are important. Relationships are the foundation of this dispensation we live in. We should not look at having multiple wives, multiple women. Our seed is important. So I would agree that we should limit and only have one woman, only have one relationship. We, as human beings, are not as important as we need to be. God created us in his own image, and we are a step lower than the angels. But I agree with Dr. Tell that we're the only species on this planet that I know of. I don't know about all the other multiple species on this planet, but we cannot, particularly the Black man, has not shown the ability to have one mate. So I think that we should limit that exposure, preparing and saving the seed of mankind. I share that in love. Peace.
Peace, family. Good to be on this episode of Black Men Declare. It's Denmark here, and good evening to my brothers, my colleagues in this fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. Monogamy. It's a difficult topic to discuss, but you're talking about monogamy and as it relates to before being married. And absolutely, I think that during the time that you're courting one woman, you should focus in on that woman alone. So that's the easy part for me is to talk about the before marriage. But here, where things are unbalanced in the Black community, especially across the world, but especially here in the United States, where Black men are taken away from families at an early age due to prison, due to death, due to drugs. Women are climbing the social ladder. Black women, I'm talking, not having enough Black males in the dating pool to marry. And the Black men that has elevated themselves. There are times that's seen through ancient times and even in current times in certain cultures where a male who's able to, because of the imbalance of their society, chooses to marry more than one woman in order to populate, get the balance back. So they take on responsibilities. But here in America, we look mostly as a sexual thing, but it's not a sexual thing. It's a thing to make their society or get their society back into some type of balance. And for those purposes, I think that should be looked at as we relate to the marriage piece. But being that the topic specifically focuses on before marriage, I say that you should only focus on one woman that woman before marriage, whoever you're talking to at that moment. And if it don't work out, then you go find another one, but you should always be focused on that one. But as I said, when it comes to marriage and Black America being out of balance, I think that option should be on the table. Peace, family.
Wow. This is a loaded question, Dr. Tell, in the sense that fundamentally, I believe that when you lay down with a woman, period, it should be some woman that has a level of quality that you would marry. Now, having said that, we know that before most of us came to a broad understanding of how valuable our bodies are and how valuable our seed is, we had not matured to that level. And especially when you think about our ancestors, especially during the time of slavery and even the period thereafter, where men oftentimes were studs. And if you were a stud, you were supposed to be like a superstar athlete today. You would have your ability to go around and lay with many of the women. And I know even growing up, I can remember growing up, I mean, pimps had a very high place in our hierarchy of who was successful and who you wanted to emulate and who you wanted to be like. Now, as we mature, we know and understand that was a very dangerous thinking. But I would say, as we have an opportunity to influence others today, I think we should admit that perhaps we failed. Some of us, I know I did growing up, but the greater victory, the greater win is for us to be willing to humble ourselves and as we speak to other young men and really old men, is let them know that when we pursue more than one, especially if it's just in the pursuit of pleasure, as Denmark mentioned it, just in the pursuit of pleasure, then we should be trying to eliminate that type of activity. Now, if we had a situation though where there was a shortage of people or there was a need for more men to maintain a balance, especially given the situation in America today where you have so many of our men incarcerated, even in a place like America, it could be advantageous if you were going to come up there with some kind of, mass uh, production and procreation of babies, let's say. That may sound crude and rude, but at the end of the day, you have a group of people speaking in terms of eugenics and elimination of the race. We should always be thinking in procreation and advancement of the race. So I say for in this current environment, I do believe while you're pursuing that special one, you still should really be monogamous with that person you're with. Now, at some point in time, once you go ahead and get married, that truly is not even should not be open for debate. And again, if you had someone that had a broad enough mindset, you probably have to move out of America or you'd be called a bigamist or polygamist. It may be vitally necessary to do like we hear that so many did in, when we read in some of the sacred books that have been written around the world. So, Dr. Tell, don't know if we hit everything for you, but any other comments you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate all the comments from all of you all. And again, I think what we would come up with is that a lot of it is based upon individuality. I think it comes to a base or understanding of an individual or individuals because we have a large polyamorous population that is growing, and you have other countries who it is their culture, and for those who would even say it's unbiblical, then I would say that they have not read their Bible, because in the Old Testament there were a number of men who took on different wives and even took on the wives of their brothers. If their brother had deceased, we know that it was the responsibility of another brother to take on that family. So it is definitely something very interesting. And I would not want to base it just upon sex, but I think it's about individuality. But for me, it is about understanding what I am accustomed to and what I've grown accustomed to. And I know for me, I don't need to have multiple choices. I need to have one choice. I need to be single-minded and focused on my one individual, my queen.
Amen. I think that's the way to do it, my brother. And that's a great first step if you're going to have any opportunity in realizing the American dream. I mean, because, for us, And we remember Dr. Terry Hunter's book about bound and wedlock and how difficult it was for us to have those monogamous relationships. But part of that being married that we were able to have officially recognized after the Civil War has been this concept of the American dream. You know, are we able to realize the American dream? And so I'd like for us to perhaps have a little 2 minutes on that American dream. Is the American dream lost today based on so many challenges we see in society? Dr. Benjamin Banneker, what's your thoughts on that, my brother?
A wonderful example of our time today. I do believe that it's still a toss-up in today's economy. At one point, it was hard to be a dreamer, hard to understand how to conduct business in a popular situation. The economists, many people think that the activity of mankind, depending on race, depending on caliber of your life, quality of your life, I think the American dream has suffered tremendously right now in this 21st century. But I understand that there are things of being a self-made human being, male and female, black or white. I think that education comes into play big time. I think that sometimes I'd like to think that we've grown into a point where we need our education, but we truly would like to be self-made providers. So I'm not sure if it's as freewheeling as it has been in past years. But in this 21st century, I think it's the 21st century, it is a tough time now for an individual to be an entrepreneur. It's a tough situation to understand how to play the game because the rules change to the game on a regular basis. So I like to hear from my colleagues, my brothers and my sisters, that one way or another, it is important, prevalent to be a part of the working class, to have your own shop, to have your own means of income. But what do you guys think? Is it harder to be an entrepreneur today? Is the American dream dead or not? I share that in love. Peace.
Dr. Banneker, this is Brother William Tell. Greetings to you and to everyone else, to our sisters and our brothers. I am perplexed with my answer for this because part of me says that the American dream has always been a nightmare for the black man or for blacks, as ever since we've come to these lands or been brought to these lands, it has been nightmarish. But then when I think about, and maybe it might be my naiveness of not being exposed to other countries and other cultures to do a fair comparison. Part of me says that we are still living in a nightmare when we are constantly being brutalized and told that we can't have what other people have because we have a darker skin tone, or just because my name is not that of one of the pilgrims that came over. But when I look at so many others that are trying to come to America, that are saying, all I want is the American dream. All I want to do is come to the land of freedom. Again, I'm perplexed. I am grateful and thankful that I was born and raised here in the United States. But when I look at my history, when I look at the history of my people, I'm not happy and I'm not proud about it.
Yeah, that's Denmark again, and it's a tough question because yes, American Dream is dying. Has it totally died? I'm not so sure. But in 1971, 61% of American households were considered middle class. This is according to CNBC news article. So, that was 61% of American households. Today, and this article was in 2021. Today is estimated that 50% of households are in the middle class. So as you look at the numbers, you will see that it's definitely dying. And you're talking about they gave some numbers that I'm gonna go through just real quick. The top three: New York, New Jersey, that area in the Pennsylvania metro area. It takes $56,000 to $169,000 to be considered in the middle class. In California, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Anaheim, between 55,000 and 165,000. In Chicago area, 52,000 to $156,000 to be considered in the middle class. But as you look at those numbers, and then you watch the past few years, as the price of everything has drastically increased, you would see that those numbers are pretty much going to rise as well, of how much it takes. And then America investing in other countries. You have the top Fortune 100 companies looking to take their opportunities, take job opportunities across seas to places like India and other nations where labor is cheaper. So you pull in money out of America, out of the middle class, and you're shipping that to other countries. So of course it's going dead. And if we don't have people in power that stands up, when you give over, I think I can't remember the exact number, but the billions of dollars that they've given to Ukraine, they've taken that money out of the American circulation instead of putting it into the economy in America and saying, hey, let's figure out ways to get more money in people's pockets. When you start investing in other countries and stuff, you itching for your society to die. And I'm quite confused, to be truthful, but as I am a student of CIA movies and FBI movies and stuff, it just makes me wonder sometimes, some of these politicians, when they trace their ancestry, though it pops up in the Ukraine areas, that pops up in these other third world areas, to now you start to see them pulling for these other countries, putting money to those other countries, and you're not even understanding that they're not really for America, they for their own country. They're here in America, and there's sleeper cells that have been activated to pull money out of the American economy and to shrink the middle class, to make America, to help the progress of America die quicker.
I tell you, the American dream. I think most of us that are on this panel, we lived a part of that American dream when we executed many of the things that we were able to execute as individuals. But that American dream has been elusive for the majority of our people. And we can look back and see that most of the time in our pursuit, those of us who pursued it being non-entertainers, most of the time we were pioneers in the pursuit of the dream. And a lot of that pursuit sometimes was to experience the process of integration, but we had some kind of way been convinced that the more we could integrate, the more we could experience the American dream, not realizing that the pursuit of that American dream without some level of real understanding could cause us to fall into philosophies of accommodation, philosophies of assimilation, And even to the point to where some in the pursuit of the American dream, they lost their way. They lost their consciousness and their cognitive ability to see the difference between the life and the opportunities between whites in America and blacks in America. So now what's happened is when you look at the failing dollar and how much it has fallen over these last few years, that American dream now has become even elusive for whites as well. The statistics indicate that right now, more than ever before, you have a lot of children being forced to go back home, being forced to go back and do things that a lot of that generation that came up with most of us here, once you kind of left, you were out there, you were making things happen because you were in pioneer type situations. And so again, unless you then maintain the commitment to balance as a black person, your mind could have been captivated and all of a sudden you would have been lulled into sleep, thinking, feeling, and believing that yes, the American dream has indeed been achieved by a high percentage of people, not realizing that you had now surrounded yourself with your circle of friends. And most of the times in that circle of friends, you were able to see life far different than the mass majority of not only Black Americans, but all Americans. And part of that is because you were walking in a process of exceptionalism. Now, I know we've heard that word being used by presidents and others, but there is a group of people that are exceptional and right, wrong, or indifferent. Those people themselves many times have been denied the pursuit of the American dream. But I tell you, Dr. Banneker, it's it's a tough one. We know we have individuals even that's come out of the poorest state in this nation who have become great entrepreneurs, who have bought great businesses and even continue to push forward, especially ideals in the entertainment business. But at the end of the day, this dream of when you hear about immigrants coming through Ellis Island, and you know that's another thing. When you think about those that came through Ellis Island and all of that, that was one route. But we are descendants of American slaves, so we came here a different route, and so we're not really even in the same page, nor do we have the same perspective of what the American dream really is. I think Dr. Till hit it right. What the American dream has been to many in the white community became a nightmare, a real nightmare for many blacks, most blacks in America. Dr. Banneker, I don't know if we hit everything, but are there any other concepts or ideas you want to share briefly?
Only that the rules of the game change on a regular basis. If we learn the game, learn the art and the gift that God has given us to be business people, to be independent, society changes the game. We sometimes don't adapt to those changes well. But I do hope that we do experience ownership of our own businesses in the present and in the past. I sure love.
All right. Well, you know what? It's really, it's not funny. But now we think about it in terms of the marriage, the monogamy, and all of that. We think in terms about the American dream and whether it's been lost or not. If we continue to step back, because we're stepping back on seem like a macro basis, has America really reached this point of diminishing returns? And, you know, is that slippery slope now so steep that it will fall as a democracy, just like those democracies that have fallen in times past? So is the crisis so deep that we are seeing where there may not be any recovery whatsoever? Denmark, what are your thoughts? Have we reached that point where hey, we just gonna fail, or we've already done so, like all nations in the past?
Peace, my brother. Loaded question. Thank you. This is a tough one because of all the stuff that we have talked about on this podcast just today. You look at America where marriage is no longer promoted. Everybody's about individualism. So you have the breakdown of the family from men not taking care of their responsibilities, or it's just being promoted to be promiscuous. Women being promiscuous, men being promiscuous. You have children not respecting the elders. That's one part. Then you look at the policies that America promotes, where they are more concerned about other countries and other people than they are the citizens here in America. Just on the last question that we had about America gave Ukraine over $113 billion. And Israel, from 1999 to 2008, America gave Israel $20 billion. 2009 to 2018, that's $30 billion. They gave them $30 billion. 2019 to 2028 is estimated that will reach over $40 billion that America has taken out of this economy and given to Israel. No telling in the next year what this next cycle, what they will be giving extra to Ukraine, because that seems to be what Biden is pushing. Then you have America's foreign policies where they're promoting homosexuality to other countries, going into other countries, paying other countries to adopt homosexuality. So as you can see, all of these things start adding up, a little bit by little bit, it start adding up to a downward spiral to America. When you don't have the family, you're not investing in the people, and you promoting something that we know is not natural, just those three things right there will destroy you. We're not even going to talk about what we talked about on last podcast about BRICS and about these other countries saying, you know what, time out, we can go against America, we could create our own thing. You compounding it. And for you not to invest in the people that is here, been here, and that you really owe this money and this dedication, you study taking away from Black community, the Black community, and you expect to last. I don't understand that. They're allowing more and more people to come into the America from the South, from the border, from Mexico, and from other countries, more Europeans. And I think they're hoping that they will eliminate somehow the need for Black people, but you're just making it worse. You're talking about you bringing in people that has no desire to promote the American way of life. They just want to come and take and send back. Peace, family.
Dr. Tell. Dr. Tell.
Greetings to everyone. As I was listening to Brother Denmark, I was thinking about the fact that whenever you have the economy or a situation where you have more than what you can handle, then it will fall apart. Just in a very simple example, if you have a cup and you pour too much coffee in it, or too much water, or too much juice in it, then you create a mess. America is on the brink of being a mess. When you look at all of the people who are coming in, because again, as we mentioned before, people are perceiving that America has this American dream, that America is so great. And then when they come and they look and see the issues, the concerns that Americans have, when I think about some of the issues, and I think about the fact of not being able to breathe, not being able to have decent, clean water like some other countries have. We are a nation that is ripe to fall. There has never been a nation that has lived on forever. Never. So I don't know. And I would say just America, just like every other nation, say, oh, we're not like that previous nation. We can make it. We're gonna be more smarter, and we're gonna do things better than every other nation that's ever been. And they all fail. When are we gonna learn from the past? All nations do fall. Blessings to you all.
Dr. Ben, do you have any comments for us tonight on this subject?
I'll pass on this one. It is a tough topic, a tough question. But I think if we ever got control of who we are in this system, we would do a better job of getting through all of the hoops that this society allows us to have. All I can tell you, in my spirit, they're talking about closing the borders in the South. They're talking about all of the money that it takes for us to provide for the immigrants that come in. Our infrastructure in this country is at a breaking point. All of the things that we're going through, this country has not been able to maintain itself. So we open up all of our hearts, all of our borders, all of our resources to accommodate mankind, i.e. other countries. I'm at a point, not sure where we go with this dispensation, but we have to try. It is imperative that we continue to fight to survive. I share that in love.
Well, I would want to be clear. I do believe that America, as a nation, the democracy as a democratic nation is on the point of diminishing returns. It's on the downslide of that slope. And I believe it will continue to accelerate simply because we are now experiencing at the highest levels of government the most outward corruption that I believe we've ever seen. We know that corruption has always been a part of the American reality. But when you think about some of the things Denmark pointed out about marriages, about income levels, and all of that, at the end of the day, we move to the point that we have gone through even most recently with the former president and all of the things that he has done to literally bastardize the process. That January 6th was only the culmination and all of the confirmation that you would ever need to know and understand that we have indeed reached that point of diminishing returns for theoretical democratic republics and societies. Now, we know that there are nations that have been here longer than 200 years or 250 years. There are nations that's been here 4,000 years, 5,000 years, thousands of years. and the people still exist. So the question is going to be not whether or not it's fallen, it has fallen. And when you look at all of the technological realities that are taking place today, they will continue to facilitate that fall. Because now we've gotten to the point to where we're moving into a digitized society. There's going to be laggards, probably the group that may adopt least or the latest will be Black America, I believe. And that's why it's going to create and bring additional hardship on Black America as we transition to this final demise. Because once the United States is no longer, the US dollar is no longer recognized as a global reserve currency, that officially takes place because unofficially it's already taken place. As nations around the world, most definitely the BRIC nations, they've already begun to trade in their own currency and not going through the US dollar portal. So I believe, yes, we have seen the best of the best. And I don't even know when there may have been when you call it the best of the best. But when we all look at ourselves individually, we know we came, we handled our business, we did some great things. And even though we were the descendants of American slaves, that we were an example of what could be potential in the American project. So as we move down the road in years to come, we'll have to see how do we now survive in a nation that's no longer considered the powerful or the most powerful nation in the world. Denmark, don't know, you may want to have any kind of closing comments, anything you want to button up on this question. The mic is open.
I think we pretty much covered all, but I would like to add, I think this was the time that it was Blacks were supposed to show their resilience and show their supreme connection to God. But we are at war ourselves. When you have young rappers like Sexy Red and Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B and talking about the stuff that they're talking about, and our young girls are listening, we are in no position to lead where it's supposed to be led, but maybe it's all in God's plan. Peace, family.
I think it is, Denmark. I think it is all in God's plan. And because of that, since we know that it's in God's plan, that there's still hope for the Black man and the Black woman. There's still hope that the downfall of America could be the elevation of the Black man and the Black woman. Look at what 45 is going to now. You got two brothers and two sisters. Only God could orchestrate such a reality, to have two brothers and two sisters that could force this man, this former president, this mafioso, into some prison guard. Don't not prophesizing and saying that it will happen, but only God could even create the situation where you have a man from Mississippi, a man from New York, a woman from New York, and one from Georgia that could cause such a thing to happen. And I'm gonna tell you, now some will tell you, Denmark, that y'all got it wrong. It's so slippery slope. Everything is great. And you'll say that because see more Black men dating and marrying white women today than any time ever before. So, when you look at it, it's kind of strange. You look at the number of so-called successful, those who have made it, there has not been a specific study done of those that's in that high level. But on the all macro basis, they say that now 1 out of every 5 marriages of Black folks is an interracial marriage. And when we say interracial, we're talking specifically with the European, because we know ethnicities run very broad and very deep around the world. But I guess the question I have today is, what is the reason? And we'll start with you, Dr. Tell. What is the reason, the real reason you think black men date and marry white women? We know the sisters do it as well, but we want to lead the focus right now on what is the reason black men date and marry white women? Dr. Tell.
I would say definitely one of the main reasons why I think so many of our black brothers marry white women is because, one, as we talked about before, they're trying to attain the American dream and come out of the nightmare. One of the goals, or one of what we would perceive would be a attribute, because we was taught that white women were to be worshipped and they were almost like goddess-like. And so now you have so many that are still suffering from this mindset that if I get a white woman, then I've achieved some level of success. I personally don't believe that, but I do know some that have. And then another reason why I believe that so many, because we find that there are a great number of white women, Caucasian women, and even Asian women that are more subservient than black women. Now, I know I might get a lot of flack over that, but when you look at the fact that most women, or some women, let me say that, black women are being pushed into positions where they are in leadership, where they are told they don't need a man, and they have believed in that philosophy. So then when they come across a man, a black man, there is a power struggle. I'm not going to let him tell me what to do. My daddy's already dead and gone, or I only have one daddy. I believe that a lot of men are really sincerely, a lot of black men are really sincerely looking for a place where they can be vulnerable, where they can be transparent, where they feel like they can share their innermost secrets and it be not used against them, and and they not feel disrespected. And I would say that for a number of years, a great number of black women have been put in this position, and they have abused the position. So now you have a great number of black men who are afraid to be vulnerable and transparent around other black women. So they tend to go elsewhere. As always, those are my thoughts.
Greetings, my brothers, my fellow panel. Interesting question about relationship. Black men have looked in the past at having a conquest, having a white woman on your arm. They're called, some of them are called trophy wives. We have some beautiful black women in this land right now. But it is difficult to find parity, to find equally yoked, to find relationships to build on. Some white women or some of white America or other races anywhere have deemed having a black man as a trophy, as a physical need and or a status need. We, in this particular country, have lost our relationship with family. We build strong relationships within our own kind. We have suffered and are suffering from not being equally yoked in our own culture. I've got a problem in jumping the broom or crossing the fence. Got a real problem with that. But it is important that we understand how to live together, love together, and come together to create a bond under the auspices of the Most High. I share that in love. Peace.
Man, this is a loaded question. I mean, all the questions have been deep and heavy tonight on this episode. I think a lot of black men, I think they find it, at least from my study and from seeing it within my own family, I think a lot of black men find it easier to choose a mate from another persuasion, particularly European. A lot of brothers that I talk to who are in those situations, they say that at least initially starting, it's less drama, less headache. So they choose that easier path, only to realize later that later on in life, once they got you, that same issue or challenge that they had with the black women will soon come out. And then a lot of it has to do with infatuation, being able to have something that you couldn't have. I did a calculation from 1555 to 1968. If you believe we came, which I do, that we came in 1555, that's 413 years that you were denied the to have sex with a white woman. You got lynched, you got hung, you got beat. But if you believe we came in 1619, I think it's 368 or 379 years, something like that. You're talking about a long time to be denied something. So when you have the opportunity, when you first start really seeing it in the late 70s, early 80s, you start seeing black men more and more with Europeans. And then you have some of our superstars go over to Europe because they say that Europe was treating black Americans better than America was. So it's just those things it become easy. It becomes and if you live up under a certain philosophy and you think that the love everybody mechanism trumps the race that your people are in, then you won't see no issue or no challenge with that. But a brother like me who believes that the race that my people are in trumps all of that, then but if you don't believe that, then you would go with the love everybody, and you think that that just having somebody on your arms, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your people are going through, what your parents have went through. Don't matter about the struggle. So I think some of those things come into play and not to play when people are thinking about who they're choosing to walk down the aisle with.
Well, what's interesting, brothers, is that even in this one, you have some social economic realities. some will say that they met their white spouse when they were in college. They were in grad school. They were working on their PhD, and they spent so much time together that they fell in love. Others will tell you they went to the lounge or to the bar, to wherever. They both loved to dance, and all of a sudden they fell in love. Others would just be as bold, like my brother was, and said, I'm marrying a white woman. I'm going to drive down to Mississippi, and I'm going to show them, like you alluded to, didn't Mark? Hey, this is my wife now. I'm going to do to her. It's legal what you did to my ancestors. And that's simple. When you sit around and have conversations with the brothers at the barber shop, you don't sit around and have the brothers just talking smack. That's when you get the real deal. And there's a high percentage of them just in their own mind. They feel to believe that it's something about being able to say, you got this white woman. And again, we know and understand from Dr. Tara Hunter, let's go back to it again. She said one of the things the sisters learned was what? A manipulative spirit, that they will learn how to manipulate you and get you to do things that perhaps you didn't want to do. And that went for the white man as well. So while we all are angry and we all have a little hostility, pent up emotion about what happened to our great grandmothers and great grandmothers and grandmothers and all of that good stuff, at the end of the day, it's not enough motivation. It shouldn't be enough motivation just to say that's what you want to get back at them. If you have that rare occasion where you truly fall in love with an individual because they are empathetic to your cause, they understand your purpose, they'll support your ministry, and all of that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, then perhaps you have found love. And it's not just about marrying a white woman to get back at what they did to your ancestors. It's my opinion we need to, especially as brothers, given the current numbers problem and issue we have here in America, where we chatted a few moments ago, last week, about the demographics of 6% black men, 6% of the population, 40% of the prison population. That puts a bad situation, and you compound the problem by going out then, and instead of being with a sister, you choose a European. That's sad. It's almost as when you look at that and seeing what's going on in America today. Because in the day, we see what it's like not to have good relationships, or what it's like not to be able to get on the same page to take care of any kind of business. Even in the world of politics. We saw this week a divorce take place. We saw that in the House of Representatives, that the majority leader got divorced, by his conference members, because 8 of his so-called conference members voted with the Democrats after one of his conference members decided to vote him out as speaker. And I don't think he really believed that something like that was going to happen. But in order to kick him out, you had to have some bipartisan support, because the Democrats said, yeah, we'll vote to take him out if that's what you're gonna make a motion to do. And he had 8 folks to jump on the bandwagon, 8 Republicans to take him on out the door. And so I guess when you see everything going on right now, brothers, and a serious thing the way you see is being proposed that 45 could be the Speaker of the House. We do realize the Speaker of the House is 2 levels before the president. So if you want to think about an ingenious reality, that if all of a sudden, they came up with an ideal, or somebody resigned, or somebody, whatever, that could open up an opportunity that where it would be a governor or somebody that could assign somebody, whoever they would want, to pick up that position, and then they get voted in as the majority leader because they still had the majority, and you did 2 levels away from the presidency. Can there be any kind of bipartisan support? Is it possible in this current United States Congress? I'd like to hear from you, Dr. Tell. What's your perspective on such a reality?
To be honest, anything now these days, anything is possible. As you have mentioned, there is no way that America is going to continue to be the nation that we want it to be, that it can be, if there is not a coming together of different ideologies. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. In order for us to survive, and then in order for us to thrive and work together, there's going to have to be some compromise. There's going to have to be some coming together and saying, let's do this for the greater good, for the greater cause. So many of them now are saying it's not about the greater cause, it's not about the people, but it's about making sure that we're right and only we are right. Again, that will add to the fall of America, and I think that will also cause the great divide. I would hate for America to go back into another civil war, but the way that it's playing out, I would not be totally surprised. As always, blessings to you all.
Greetings, Dr. Hodges. Pretty interesting question. And a pretty interesting time of our society right now. I'm of the opinion, Bid Raniker, that we've seen play out hustling, scheming, conniving, lying, cheating. And there may have been, in some cases, corruption. This particular paradigm, I call it a paradigm. A guy can't win an election, supposedly a free election. So then he says he wants to take it. He wants to start a riot or have an insurrection. Then when that isn't working, then he wants to put all the pieces together for unrest. But when all else fails, he's already stacked the deck in the court system. So if whatever goes that far, I got my cronies in the court system. Now he's saying that I was led down the path from listening to my lawyers. Corruption, I should say. We're corrupt. Beyond any measure, all measures, we're corrupt. And this is an indication that one man, not particularly a group, but this one man has seen and has shown the demise of mankind. I think that we are at death's door right now, and I don't know if we're going to return to peace and prosperity. I pray we do. But this one particular organization, this MAGA group, has been planning this, and there's a system of planning. We don't plan well. We don't understand how to implement the game. But this plan has been worked out for years. I think it's going to fail But what we have to go through to get to the other side is hell. So right now we are on the doorsteps of hell. And if we don't understand how to stop this locomotive, we are doomed. I share love. Peace.
And there's several things coming to my mind when we talk about this bipartisan stuff in Congress. You say, could we have bipartisanship in America? I think anytime it comes to Israel, we have that very bipartisanship that you were mentioning here. But there's not many other times that they come together and put America first, or besides their party. There's not many other times besides when it comes to a vote on Israel, and that's a shame. That is a shame. I think about, when I think about the Republicans and the Democrats, I often think about the Crips and the Blood, and how gang activity starts in the city and why it's so prevalent. And then there's times where they have truce and gang activity, and they come together, and oftentimes it's because, you know, some cop killed a black man or beat up a black man. You'll see the Bloods and the Crips come together to support each other in those times. And the only time America calls truce between each other again is when Israel come calling, or when it's time to sign a deal for Israel. Everything else, they gang banging every day in Congress. It's a gang bang. That's all it is, without any weapons, but the most powerful weapon, the pen and the pad. And so I don't think there'll ever be that high level of bipartisanship in our country with our lawmakers, because this is how they get paid. This is how they stay in office, to create animosity among the people. You know, they got to show that they have animosity with their colleagues across the aisle. So I don't think we'll ever see that type of bipartisanship, except if someone attacks America, sort of like 9/11, then you may see it. They often use that as a tool. So anytime you see somebody looking like they're attacking America, you see Democrats and Republicans kind of come together. But I think America always uses that as its tool to drum up support for whatever they're trying to do.
That's it, brother. Breaking the code. Because regardless and despite of what it may appear to be, there's bipartisan taking place all the time. Because just to do the stuff that they do, there are so many different bills that are passed we never even hear about. Don't happen. We only hear about the so-called major. You know, they said the major, the minor profits. We only hear about the major issues, and then the major issues is when they begin to hold these unbelievable positions. But at the end of the day, we're at a point in time once again where it's become critical now. Think about what I said a few moments ago. That if in fact, some kind of way, because again, it's not one of those things that's clearly covered. If in fact, after all that we've seen and all of these 91 indictments, you have somebody say they want to put 45 in that position, Speaker of the House, you know, two down from being the president of the United States once again. In the current Biden term, I mean, that's just too difficult to even believe possible. But like you said, William Tell, all things are possible. And I know who his great minister was, that Norman Vincent Peale. But at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, I said, my heart of heart, I think it could. But in my mind, knowing the level of corruption, the level of evil, the level of deception, the level of hate, the level of desire for power that currently exists in both parties, I really don't see where we're going to have any kind of real true bipartisan agreement on any major policies that's going to make life better for blacks here in America. On all of that minor stuff, oh yeah, do have agreement. But anything major, it's not going to take place. It's just not going to happen. Brothers and sisters, we truly hope you have enjoyed some of our conversation, this evening as you go back and look at, the subject matters that emerged on this particular broadcast. You can see how it starts really with the family. It starts with the foundation. And it also starts with how you're going to relate to that family, how you're going to grow into becoming that husband. Are you going to live a monogamous life? Many things can happen that are not positive if you don't. There are some sexually transmitted diseases out there that's waiting on people that want to embrace a philosophy of from promiscuity. It ain't really what it may be cut out to be. The American dream, still may be possible for a lot, but the dream is not like it was for many years ago. It truly has become an American nightmare with 65% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. There's not much of a dream. Most of them hoping and praying that the HVAC does not go out, the wash machine doesn't blow up, the television doesn't blow up, although they're so cheap they probably wouldn't mind on there. But it's truly an issue. And then when we see statistically so many of our young men and middle-aged men and old men, they decide to go across and marry on the other side, as you may say. Now, nearly full didn't say wherever they move, you move. But he didn't say wherever they married, whoever they married, you married. He didn't say that. That wasn't one of his recommendations. And then lastly, we have to use what we see as the inability of the Congress to come together as a means and a catalyst for us to come together as people, as men and women, black men and women in America and around the world. As we leave tonight, we want you to hit that notification button once again, smash it. Make a comment below. Share this with a friend or a neighbor, co-worker, whoever. But we'll be back again to have dialogue such as this. And we always welcome your input by leaving a comment below. This is J.A. Rogers, Mike Side. We are Black Men Declare. Our purpose is to change the narrative from a black man's point of view. Until we meet again, go out and have those conversations and always leave them in peace and love.